Recently, a new version of Rust was released, version 1.56.0, which stabilizes the 2021 edition of Rust. Additions are a way to opt into small and scoped breaking changes. Additions are chosen on a per crate basis, and crates with different additions can interoperate with each other. Because additions are distinct from the version of Rust you're using, you could be on the latest version of Rust but be using an older edition, for example, edition 2018. To upgrade to the latest release of Rust, simply run rustup update stable. To automatically migrate your project to the next edition of Rust, run cargo fix -- edition, then modify the edition field in cargo.toml to the next edition, for example 2021, and finally run cargo build or cargo test to verify your code works. Now let's talk about the most impactful changes in the 2021 edition of Rust. The first and most important change is disjoint capture and closure. Closures automatically capture variables you refer to in the closure's body. In the 2018 edition and before, closures would capture entire variables even if only one field was used. Starting in edition 2021, closures are smart enough to only capture the individual fields used within the closure. The second change is that the Intolterator trait is implemented for arrays. The Intolterator trait defines how a type will be converted into an iterator. Types implementing this trait have to implement one method called Intolterator. The nice thing about this trait is that types implementing this trait can be used in for loops. Up until Rust version 1.53.0, only references to arrays implemented the Intolterator trait, meaning that you can use a for loop to iterate over references to the values inside of an array, but you could not use a for loop to iterate over the values themselves. This was a long-standing issue that wasn't straightforward to fix because implementing Intolterator for arrays would break existing code which used method syntax to call Intolterator. Well, great news. Now arrays implement the Intolterator trait in all editions of Rust. That means that in all editions of Rust, you can use a for loop to iterate over the values inside of an array. For backwards compatibility in editions prior to 2021, using the method syntax to call Intolterator on an array resolves to calling Intolterator on a reference to that array. Starting in the 2021 edition, calling Intolterator on an array works as expected and gives you an iterator over the values of an array. Another change are some additions to the prelude, specifically the try into, try from, and from iterator traits. These traits are now in scope by default. The try into and try from traits define how to convert between types, and the from iterator trait defines how a type can be created from an iterator. In addition to these changes, here are some other updates. The bare trait objects warning and ellipsis inclusive range patterns warning have been promoted to errors. This means using the din keyword to identify trait objects will be mandatory starting in the 2021 edition. The panic macro now always expects format strings, which is consistent with other macros such as the printline macro. And finally, there are some minor updates to macros such as the ability to use OR patterns in macro rules and some new reserved syntax. If you would like more details or to find out about changes I didn't mention in this video, I've linked to a blog post announcing Rust 2021 in the description. With that said, if this video was helpful, make sure to give it a like, and if you want to see weekly Rust content, make sure to hit subscribe. Finally, get your free Rust cheat sheet by heading over to letsgetrusty.com/cheat sheet. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one.